Hi, this is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the sound bites. Someday I'll explain to people what that means. That means if somebody in Washington says to you it's free, you better check, right? There you go.
Yes.
Ask some more questions, like really? Anyway, joining me in studio, I am thrilled today. I'm very hyper about having my guest because she is walks on water as far as I'm concerned. Rachel Feldman, who is a Jewish advocate, who is here to talk about her experiences in Israel and here in Vermont as being a Jewish person. And we met in state government, right?
Yes, I think the first time we met was when I was Chief of Staff for then Lieutenant Governor Phil Scott.
Oh, there you go. Oh, yeah, because I was very active in his campaign and stuff back then. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and you were always around the State House because it's hard to get away from that building.
Yeah, it's someday I should do a show about how people change when they're in the building and how the dynamics change, and then they go home, and they're different at home because they're talking to their friends, and it's a different atmosphere than being in the. I've seen a couple of them back at the ranch, and I'm like, who are you?
Right? You're wearing a T-shirt.
You're just not who I remember. Anyway, could you talk a little bit about who you are and what your experience has been since we talked about Governor Scott? But you've got a few things behind you.
Yes, and thank you so much, Pat, for having me
anytime.
on. And for the record, I do not and have never walked on water unless it's been frozen.
Oh, she's
and
just
in
saying
that
that.
case, no, I only if it's frozen. In that
there
case,
you
I
go.
slip
That's
and I
true.
fall down.
That's true.
Right now, I am the community organizer for Shalom Alliance Vermont, which is a group that was founded after October 7th to educate, address anti-Semitism in Vermont, and to correct misinformation about Israel, and to create a community space that was nonpartisan and is not just for Jews, but for allies of the Jewish people in Israel. So my background is in media and politics and public policy. But when October 7th happened and my student Roni Polvanov, 23 years old of Ramla, was murdered by Hamas at the Nova Music Party, I left my career that I thought was everything and that I thought defined me, because I realized on that day and in the days after, especially given the world's response, that any title, any job that I have, at the end of the day, I'm always a Jew. But no, I'm a Jew.
And proud of it.
Oh, heck
and
yeah.
We've talked about your friend before. You said he's a student. Where were you teaching him? Why was he a student to you? I don't think I've ever asked that obvious question.
So I went to Israel for the very first time when I was in my 20s, and I left WCAX, where I loved working as a producer and a reporter, and I went there to teach English. And I lived in the city of Ramle Lod, and in my classroom were Jewish students, Arab students. I taught kindergarten through 8th grade, and Roni was one of my 6th grade students.
That must have been so hard, that phone call, because the whole event hit everybody. I just couldn't believe what we were hearing.
I went to bed that night. I got home a little after midnight on October 7th, and I put a post to Instagram because I lived in Montpelier at the time, and I'd been through the flood, and October 6th was the first night that Montpelier had street music and everything was alive again.
Right.
I put up a post and I went to bed. And then I woke up, and my telegram and my messages, and I have seen hours upon hours of things that nobody should ever see. And my world changed in that instant, but I didn't know about Roni until 2 days later, when one of my students reached out to me and said, Rachel, they got one of us.
Oh, wow.
Because we were all checking in on each other. It took the army many days to be able to secure those kibbutzim.
Yeah.
It was a long process.
What it just, I can't even imagine. I mean, we are so fortunate here. Really, we're, I almost say spoiled, because we've never dealt with some of the things that you've seen and experienced. I mean, I was talking to my husband the other night about it. I don't know how. I hope I'd be brave. I hope I do things correctly, whatever that means. And if we were faced with incidences like that, it's just incredible.
In those moments, and I've spent a lot of time over the past 2 years speaking with survivors and
Right.
speaking with Israelis and speaking with people who came from abroad and saw things firsthand immediately afterwards. And I came very close after that. And there is this collective shock and trauma
Right.
of it. But there is also there is no right thing to do, because
No books on that one, right? How to survive.
people
Not
should
there.
not have to live with the constant expectation that their neighbor is planning to murder them. And that is exactly what happened on October 7th.
Right. And they must have been planning that for a long, long time. I mean,
Yes.
especially they had all the tunnels and all the things they built under hospitals and things like that. And you saw, I don't know if you saw the whole movie, but you saw part of the movie of October 7th. Was that true? Or videos of...
I've seen hours and hours and hours
Really?
of footage.
I can't
All the
imagine,
footage
Rachel.
that you're talking about,
Yeah.
I've seen it. And what strikes you most when you watch it is the joy, the unabashed joy and pride of the people who are hacking off a man's head with a garden hoe, who have 2 children under the age of 10 huddled next to their parents,
Oh, my
soaked in the blood of their older sister, and are casually laughing. People who call their parents and say, "I killed 10 Jews with my own hands."
Wow.
And it's the glee, it's the joy that is so chilling. Because the people who live on those kibbutzim that were attacked on October 7th were some of the most peaceful Israelis. Israelis who work directly with people from Gaza, who help bring them to Israel for life-saving medical treatment, who have Gazan civilians who work
Right.
with them, alongside them. And I've spoken with the residents of these kibbutzim, and so many of them, they don't know how they will ever trust again.
Right. They must be just so surprised. Now, there are a lot of Palestinians living in Jerusalem as well, are there not?
Well-
From what I read, at least they were there. Maybe not now, but...
Well, in Israel, the population just reached 10 million, so my numbers are not exact
Yeah.
here, but there are about 7 million Jews, about 2 million Arabs who practice different religions.
Right.
And then there are approximately 1 million people who practice different faiths, including the Druze, the Bedouin community, etc. And Israel is one of the most diverse countries. So you walk down the street in my neighborhood, where I hear the call to prayer behind my house 5 times a day,
Right.
and then right up the street is the Catholic church and the school, and then
the
down the
bells.
street is the Chabad
Yeah.
and the shul. But I walk through and it's like the Tower of Babel. I'm hearing Russian, I'm hearing Ukrainian, because
That's
so many
great.
Ukrainian refugees are there. There is every color under the sun there. And so when I come back here and people say, Israel's an apartheid state, Israel is a white settler colony, I'm like,
Maybe not.
but like, I'm searching for signs of it and I'm not finding it anywhere.
Well, and they've always been peaceful for years and years. They've all gotten along, right? And then here we are, which means to me, especially the folks who are finding it humorous, must have been brought up that way to be at that level of depravity. That's what they must have learned at home, right? For over the years. You just don't turn that kind of hatred on. I hope not.
You're taught. I think about South Pacific, the musical, the Robert Hussein musical.
Right.
You have to be
yes,
carefully
that's
taught
right.
how
That's
to hate.
right.
And some of the things that have been found by the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, in Gaza and also in southern Lebanon, because Hezbollah sent tens of thousands of rockets into Israel since October 7th, but nobody really talked about that over here because, it's just Israelis getting displaced from their homes. And I say this facetiously, but seriously, the media does not seem to care. No. What has been found in those homes, the two most common books, number one, the Quran, of course, that's obvious. Number two, Mein Kampf, translated
Another
into Arabic.
classic. Oh, lovely.
Mein Kampf, Hitler's manifesto, which directly translates into my struggle, which is how the anti-Israel movement is now defining intifada. It's not violent, it just means a struggle. And the world's falling for it again.
Right. It's really, I was looking at your pin. You said that is for the hostages. Now there are, I thought I heard last night there were 50 hostages, but many of them are dead, right? And so in returning them, there'll be 20 or 30 that have passed away already. I can't imagine how those that are there are surviving. I mean, they're down still in the tunnels, I'm assuming. There's no light, there's no nothing.
No light, no air, no food, being tortured. And every life is a universe. And the greatest mitzvah, the greatest act of good that one can do in Jewish tradition is the redemption of hostages and the return of hostages. It's also Jewish tradition that a person's body, full body, everything that you can retain of them should be returned to the earth so they can find peace, and there is peace. And by holding corpses hostage, it's deliberate. It's to torture people. Right. It's to continue the suffering, because if Hamas wanted this war to end, or if the IRGC, which is the regime in Iran, wanted this war to end, they could release the hostages right now and Hamas could surrender. And that would all be over. But it's not about that. No. It's about torturing, making the Jewish people and the state of Israel, which is the Jewish nation, suffer. Right. And my dear friend Noah Ruveni, her best friend Ziv Berman and his twin Gali Berman are still held hostage in Gaza. And every day when I wake up, I literally scream their names to the sky and just hope that they hear and that they know that we're fighting for them and that they don't believe the things that we know from both the released hostages and the rescued hostages are being told to them.
You know, you put a picture on your Facebook that we included in the prior video we did with you. And I'm going to do it again because it makes me cry. I made a copy of it and I had it framed. It's your hand, I'm assuming, against
it's the
against the fence, and on the other side of the fence were the hostages. I'm sure far, far away. But you said something like, "We see you, we're coming." And every time I think about it, and I'm going to do it now, but it just gets me because they're right there, and you can't get to them. And when they're released, it's just such a, just such an emotional moment. I can't even imagine it, whether being mom or a sister or brother or whoever, to have your family, a loved one come home. Just incredible. The stories must be ones you don't want to hear. So,
and it's a feeling that is hard to describe, but the Jewish nation, the world entire, is 15 million people. We're so small. And when there is a hostage rescued or released, we break down and we cry together.
Sure. Yeah, what are you going to do?
I mean, the very first time I was in Israel, I landed and there were all of these posters up of this handsome young guy. And I had I figured he was somewhat like, you know, some pop star or whatever.
Right.
No, he's a hostage.
Oh.
And his name's Gilad Shalit. And the country does not forget. And I remember exactly where I was the second that Gilad Shalit was returned to Israel. And that was in exchange for many, many convicted terrorists and prisoners, including Yahya Sinwar, the orchestrator of October 7th.
Yep.
But the entire nation was watching. That's our boy. That's our family.
Yeah. Well, that was a very, very powerful picture. I don't know if you felt it but it was, I saw that and I went, whoa.
I'll send you the one that I took at a different kibbutz.
Oh, really?
Just
okay.
very recently.
We can add it to the end of this video. So the question now is, do you plan to go back?
Of course.
I think you're committed to this forever and ever, which is thank God. So
it's home.
It's home. You said to me last time when we were talking, you said something. Oh, I think you said it on Kevin Ellis's radio program that you feel safer in Israel than you feel safe. I said that wrong. You feel safer in Israel than you do here in the United States and in Vermont. That is staggering to me, because I am once again living in my bubble, and I have a lot of people on my show that experience things so different than I do. I don't do it intentionally. It's just what happens, and that surprised me. Because I had visions of Israel being not the safest place in the world to be these days, but that's because of an enemy. This is an enemy in your backyard. And since then, all the colleges, we've had something here at the State House. It's just everywhere.
Yep, you absolutely summed up the reason. The enemies, when you're in Israel, you know. But also, it is the fact that Israel exists because the world has proven to the Jewish people that the only people who will defend and protect the Jewish people are the Jewish people. Whether it's individuals, neighbors, governments, entire governmental systems, all have at some point turned on the Jewish population. And the Jewish people need a place where we can defend ourselves and each other. And Vermont broke my heart after October 7th. I have given more than a decade to public service in this state, and I would do it all over again. I have worked with Vermonters from the kingdom to the shires. I have traveled around. I have shaken people's hands. I have listened to their stories. I have stood with them. I have advocated for them. And then on October 8th, to have either silence or celebration here in Vermont. I haven't given up hope in this state, but I think there is something deeply cracked here. And what Shalom Alliance is helping to do is provide a way for the Jewish community to actually address the things that we are experiencing, and it is happening so much in the K through 12 space. And I threw myself out there into social media and advocacy right after October 7th and just said, forget it, this voice matters more than anything I could do anywhere else. The hatred and the death threats and the comments that I receive on an hourly basis are beyond the pale, and I'm an adult with like experience under my belt and enough to be like, yeah, okay, that says more about you than it does about me. What must be happening to our Jewish kids?
Right.
Now we know, and it's not good. Vermont has broken my heart. We are not a state that is protecting everybody. We are a state that in our very well-intended efforts to create equality for people have lost sight of a group that is currently screaming to be heard. There's a bill introduced in the House, House Bill 310, an act relating to education on the evolving nature of anti-Semitism, which would include anti-Semitic harassment and ethnic harassment under the definitions of harassment,
Right.
and would require schools to have anti-Semitism training. This bill is being met with such fierce opposition.
Who's the sponsor?
The co-sponsors are Representatives Casey Toof of St. Albans,
Casey.
a
Well,
Republican.
you and he have worked he was on the show with you at one time.
Yeah, he's been a longtime ally, and Representative Matt Byrong, the chair of House Government Operations.
Oh, yeah.
And then there are, I believe, 31 other co-sponsors on that bill.
Oh, that's great.
But it stayed on the wall because it's uncomfortable, I suppose, to have the conversation, too difficult to have the conversation, but nothing about the
part of
bill
their
is
job.
about the war.
Right.
Everything is about protecting Jewish students right here. And that Vermonters can't see that, again, breaks my heart. I saw such unity when my home flooded on July
That's true,
7th,
right.
July 10th, 7/10/10/7. On July 10th, 2023, when the water was rising and I was stuck in my home, and someone who I still only know as Ben the boat guy, like rowed his canoe down the street.
Wow. Where
Yeah.
do you live? Where did you live?
I was on Lower Main Street.
Oh, yes. Oh, wow.
And the show of unity.
Yep. They came out of the
Immediately after.
woodwork. Yeah, but not for this.
I got hundreds of text messages that night while I was stuck in my apartment,
Yeah.
and it was crickets after October 7th, including from people that I've worked with for a very,
Well,
very
that's the
long time.
part that really surprises me. People are very comfortable in saying things, people that I've known for years, and they just blew me away with what they're really thinking inside. And now they feel comfortable because they don't think they're alone, so they're saying this stuff, and I'm like, what? Where did that come from? I don't get it. I honestly.
It's the world's oldest hatred. There's a pattern to how anti-Semitism, which is an academic word for Jew hate, manifests in a society, and it starts with some kind of libel. So whether it's genocide, or that the Jews killed Jesus, or that Jews use the blood of Christian children to make matzah, or that Jews
Lord.
poisoned the wells, or that Jews are not white enough, as was the case in Germany, and Jews are ruining our economy. Whatever that libel or lie is, gets baked in enough that it then excuses violence against the Jews. And it normalizes that violence because what you are accusing the Jew of, what a society is accusing the Jew of, is the thing that society deems to be the worst possible offense at that time. So in order to fight back against that thing, genocide is terrible, apartheid, terrible, white colonial settlers, horrible. But we don't really know how to fight that, so the Jews, we're a placeholder for whatever society deems to be the worst thing, and there doesn't have to be any truth in it, but once people believe that, Then we have things like the firebombing of Governor Josh Shapiro's house
Right,
during
right,
Passover.
right.
We have 2 Israeli embassy workers shot in cold
the
blood
United
by
States.
somebody screaming "Free Palestine."
Right.
We have firebombing of Holocaust survivors. And not a peep.
Yep. Unbelievable. So you have family here, though, do you not? Your family's here. So when you're here and stuff, you're certainly surrounded by folks who very appreciative, I hope, I'm sure they are, of what you're doing, or maybe a little worried about you. But we say prayers for you all the time. I said, sorry, I dropped my earring, and the darn thing, I'm never going to get it in.
I understand.
I know this is
why
serious.
he's
Well, I'll just take the other one off. This is the real Pat McDonald without earrings. Like, what? There you go.
I feel like I should take mine off too.
No, that's okay. It falls. And I found that I have lost my earrings more times, and miraculously, if you backtrack, oh, there it is. So there you go. But people need a safe place, and that's why what you said about feeling insecure. You need a safe place to be. I have found that years ago I worked with this woman who was, oh my God, her life was a disaster at home. Everything you could read about in the Post, she was living it. And then she'd come into the office and have this terrible trouble in work. And she was in my office and we were talking, and I said to myself, you need at least one place to be safe. And so what was in my control was the office. So you've got to have a safe place. You can't not be safe somewhere, right? And I think that's where, when the houses have all been bombed up, where do these people go? They've lost everything, right?
Yep.
Where do they go? What kind of places are there for them to live and to feel something, hope?
Well, I mean, this is also where you look to the actions of a government and what they do. You were speaking earlier about Hamas building those tunnels, and yes, since Israel completely withdrew from Gaza in 2005 and left the greenhouses, all of the agrarian infrastructure there, Hamas decided to turn Gaza, instead of into Singapore, into a staging ground for a genocide. They built a tunnel system bigger than the London Tube, and they appropriated $3.3 billion of international aid in order to do it. And so in Israel, on the other hand, the Iron Dome, I was there on October 1st, 2024, when Iran launched the IRGC, because I very much want to distinguish between the IRGC and the people of Iran.
Right.
But the IRGC launched the largest ballistic missile attack on another country in history. I was 2 levels down in a parking garage, and those tremors and booms,
Wow.
they shake your bones. The Iron Dome is a miracle.
Oh.
But also the fact that Israeli homes are built with mamads or miklats, so shelter rooms inside the home or in the basement of a building.
Right.
Those are things that a government ensures for its
That's
people,
great.
that there are public places for people to go, that and it is not a long-term solution, but the people who are displaced from the north, and the people like my closest friend in Israel, whose apartment was ruined, ruined is a slight word, is totally destroyed as the result of a missile that was sent by Iran, the IRGC, a few weeks ago. They're in hotels. There is government care and support, whereas if you look at Gaza, the people of Gaza are suffering, and their government wants them to suffer because it makes for really good TV.
Wonderful.
But it's very easy to paint that as Israel's fault.
Has the getting the supplies into the people, has that gotten better? there's been a lot of focus on them not being able to get the supplies that other countries are sending in. Are they being stopped? I heard that Hamas has stopped people from getting the supplies that are being sent, and of course, some believe it, some don't, and I tend to believe it. But
from what friends have told me, who have actually been on the ground in Gaza,
yeah,
that is the case.
That
That
they're holding-
Hamas does not want people to reach the aid.
Mm-hmm.
What I have seen that there is documented evidence of is Hamas hijacking aid trucks, proof of aid coming through UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and
right.
Works Agency, in the tunnels underneath Gaza, which only Hamas are able to access. And the aid situation is one of the pieces of leverage that Hamas has over the people of Gaza. However, if you look at the headlines, they have been saying for 2 years, on the brink of famine, close to famine, could be at starvation.
They do it just enough, right?
This could almost happen, but there is no evidence of true famine in Gaza. There are one-off pictures, the majority of which have been debunked, and this is not me in any way diminishing the suffering of Gazan people, especially the women and children who are so disenfranchised.
Right.
And they have been the victims of Hamas the longest. Hamas and terrorists oppress their own people first, and then they go global.
Lovely.
But I think about them most of all. I'm not diminishing that, but what I am saying is there is no actual evidence of famine, and nearly every single picture, has been debunked and proven to be of someone with a medical condition.
Wow. They must know to bring them right to the border and then miraculously release some food to get them back so they don't reach that point. Because they know, I think the world would react, and not in their favor.
We know from hostages that have been either rescued or released, they were starved in these literal Holocaust simulations, like what Dr. Mengele used to do.
Right.
Being like, oh, not skinny enough. No. And before their release, if that was how they were able to end captivity, they were overfed. And the food was there. And they saw their captors eating all the time, but they overfed in order to send people back looking healthy and chubby, and for the world to be like, see, they're not treated badly.
Yeah. Good grief. I'm going to ask something, I don't know. The tunnels in Gaza, why were they missed? Because I thought that Israel had the best, I don't know what to call, but best handle on what's going on around them. And that seems to me that should have been, somebody should have seen something. Should they not have?
That's a
bad
really
question
good
to ask, right?
No, it's a really good question, and I'm out of my depth here in terms of all of the different international steps and things that the Israeli government would have done or how they would have responded. But I know that there's been reporting about Hamas's tunnels dating back many years. So the existence of the tunnels of Hamas was known.
Oh, now that's interesting. Maybe not the depth of it or the extent of it, because they're, as horrible as it is, building them under the hospitals was not a dumb idea on their part, because it sort of stops people from
hospitals, schools, mosques, civilian homes.
Yeah.
And the evidence is all there, and it is just so enervating to know that there is a group that is acting out of a deliberate disregard
Right.
for the laws of international humanitarian law and
Oh, forget
international
that.
warfare, but they're also using their opponents' adherence to those
Man, that's
values
right.
against them.
They know we'll follow it.
They know
Interesting.
Israel will follow the
Yep.
laws and the rules.
Yeah. And they don't. And who's to tell them no? You try, but they don't care, I guess.
Well,
'Cause
there
I
are a
wa- I
lot
was
of
very
international
surprised.
aid organizations who could have said something. There are a lot of people on the ground who could have said something.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people who could have asked more questions. There are a lot of people who could have, and
Because they knew the people that were building it knew what it was for, I'm sure. You don't just build a maze like that with no intent. They knew, right? It must have
stated
been,
their intent. Every single terrorist proxy of the Islamic regime, all of the H's, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, etc.,
That's funny.
and the IRGC, they state their purpose: to kill the Jews, destroy the state of Israel, and destroy the West. They say it out loud. They say, we will repeat October 7th again and again and again. And when people tell you who they are, believe them.
right, yeah. Do people that you know in Israel, are they aware of what's going on here in our colleges and not the parades, the protests? Do they know that a lot of people are feeling here? That's not good.
Yes, Israelis are aware, and the awareness is growing as, I don't even want to jinx anything by saying the Q word, but as things start to maybe cool down on the 7 actual land and air fronts
Right.
that Israel's been fighting,
Yeah,
they're starting to become a bigger part of this 8th front of the war, which is the information war,
right.
and what we're facing in the diaspora. And yes, they are aware, but I would also say that they've been a little busy.
Oh, no, sure, but how sad that they know what's going on here, because maybe somewhere in their thinking that, well, America is still, because for 75 years we have been an ally of Israel. Started way back in whatever 75 years is from now, but it's been a long time that we've been allies and great relationship. And I don't get it, but I've said that a million times.
Well, there are 2 memories that really stand out to me. One was, this was back in 2024, before the election. This was when then President Biden was saying that he was not going to continue supporting Israel. And
Right.
I was sitting outside, it was on Shabbat, and we were having Shabbat in a garden, and there was a mother walking by with her son, and she said something to her son. I didn't speak enough Hebrew to understand all of it, but she was telling him about what President Biden said, and this boy, who couldn't have been more than 10, burst into tears and said, why? Like, why Biden? What did I do?
Right.
And then when I was there, when Trump won, everyone was like, oh, I can sleep.
Right.
So those are my memories. But it's Israel's response to American politics based on the one thing that should matter to the country. It's, what does this mean directly for me?
Yep.
It means that we still have our friend.
But I keep thinking about and would like to know, in Harvard and Yale and all, how far back were those teachers, professors, brought to the college waiting for an event, just like they're building the tunnels? Took years before they used them, and all of a sudden, all these people pop up in education. What is that?
That's the long game.
Exactly, and that's what they play.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
that's
think
been
what
going
we're
on
seeing
forever.
is, we're seeing the actual crash and break and explosion
Right.
of an effort that has been a few decades in the making. Because it's not just in academia that you're seeing this leadership that is teaching people that Islamist extremism is actually peaceful, and that Zionism, which is literally a land acknowledgement for a 3,500-year-old tribe, it is the Jewish people's right to self-determination in our ancestral and indigenous homeland, that Islamist extremism is peaceful, and that people living in their own land able to defend themselves, not to the exclusion of others, is evil. That took a while, but that teaching started a while back, so that now the people who have learned that are in leadership positions throughout the very important professions. They're in law, they're in politics, they're in medicine, they're in media. And the students continue to learn this, and it's reinforced by those in leadership. And so, for example, you can have some local programming on a station here in Vermont where they talk about Iran and Israel and Gaza for an hour without ever talking to an Israeli or a Jew. But they talk to a lot of people from Gaza and a lot of people from Iran and a lot of people who just are experts on the situation.
Right. Do you know what I was thinking when you were here on the show previously? We were talking about from the river to the sea. We were talking about a 1 or 2 state solution. I don't know whether there's so many other things to talk about, but nobody's talking about those solutions. Not that the river to the sea is a solution, but the 1 or 2 state. So nobody's saying anything. They're just waiting to see what's going to happen now, and who knows what's next. Do they talk about that at all, or is it done?
I can't speak for the people of Israel, and the people of Israel do a great job speaking for themselves and protesting for themselves. And if there's a message I can give Americans, it's like, Israelis have this covered, and they don't need Americans saying, do this, apply our Western values to the Middle East.
Right. Let them figure it out. I just stopped hearing it from even the people they're interviewing. Nobody, I mean, there's such an overwhelming thing happening to them right in their face that it's hard to think about solutions when you're trying to survive. But I just, for whatever reason, they've just stopped bringing it up. And now that's our press, so who the heck knows, since they're a little one-sided.
Yeah, it's also, it is such a small region of the world, and it can be very difficult to speak about all of these various fronts that are occurring. I mean, when I was over there last, I could tell who was firing at us based on what time of day it was. It was like the sirens going off, it's this time, okay, that's the Houthis. It's this time, oh, that's Hezbollah.
Rachel, oh my God. And where are you at this? Not the place, but where are you protected, or you're in your...
Usually I'm in the shower, and that's always so much
helpful.
fun. Yeah. There's a great account that I am friends with on Twitter, and they have started a tally of how many times I talk about the shower when there's a siren. Great. But I actually did not have a shelter inside of my home, so I had my little kit by the door, and it was just throw on the shoes, grab the bag, and book it down.
Yep.
So
your go bag. Yeah, I was talking about that the other day. Years when we grew up, we had go bags. That's what you did, and I think that was from leftover from, who knows, World War II or something, but we don't have that anymore. And the flood, if people had had go bags, it might have helped them a little bit to have the documents for insurance and, you know, all that stuff, as you probably experienced. It's just sort of good to have it there.
The flood taught me that everything that matters to me, except for my people, can fit into one bag.
There you go.
The rest is just stuff.
Yep.
But have that stuff somewhere where you can very easily,
Yeah, exactly.
and just for peace of mind, if nothing else.
So is your place livable? Are you back there, or moved on to somewhere else in town?
I will be exploring some different living situations when I return very soon. I'm really looking forward to it.
That's great.
Despite the fact that it is summer in Israel, which basically means that you are sweating constantly. Even if you're sitting in air conditioning, you're still sweating.
They don't tell you how dry it is? I love that speech. The one for Arizona. Oh, yeah, but it's dry.
I mean, my hair's
Yeah, but-
great over there, but
Yeah, curly, right? Mine does that way, too.
oh yeah.
So I guess I was thinking about Iran, and there's, I mean, not just what we did was just spectacular, I must say. Very proud. Because I heard, I don't know what his rank was, he's one of they're bigger folks involved in a bigger general or something, and he explained the whole thing to us on the TV today, and it was fascinating. They've been planning this for years. And I think that's what you have to do, which got me thinking about the colleges and all the school boards and blah, blah, blah. Because somebody's thinking it all out. There's somebody pulling the strings. It would be interesting to find out. Because it kills me at all these protests. Everybody have these big signs. Everybody's got outfits. They don't just do that themselves either. Somebody's buying that stuff for them.
Yeah, and the chants are all the same,
Yes,
and
exactly.
no matter where you are, they're the same. And
Yep.
even though it might look granola crunchy, why is it that it looks like bread and puppet in California and in Chicago and in New York
it's
and
all
not
the same.
just here?
Yep.
Why is that font similar?
It's
there
so
is
obvious, it's
certainly a
sad.
coordinated kit, and
And they get paid, a lot of them.
yeah, part of this is that protesters are paid. I'm not sure if that's the case here in Vermont, but
I shouldn't tell this story. Walmart, when Walmart was going in.
which one?
The one up in the mall. We had 4 people protesting. 4. And we had a meeting over there, and so I went and asked them. They all got paid. Every one of these 4 guys got paid. They're marching and all. And of course, when we found that out, we were just, it did sort of lost a little bit of its, threatening appeal, because I was like, are you kidding? So they got paid, and we had 4. So we had a protest in Berlin.
It also, I think it takes away from people who truly do use peaceful
Good point,
protest
good point.
as a means to engage with our government.
Yeah.
And
Because if you do it right, it is effective. Because people will listen, and I know at the State House, my years over there, if people are responsible and respectful and can explain why they're doing what they're doing, you ask half the people that are carrying on about it, they can't even explain. What did the Jewish people, what are you protesting?
genocide.
Yeah, yeah, right. Right.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It simply isn't, and that should be good news. I have spent the majority of my life studying the Shoah, the Holocaust,
Yeah.
and other genocides. And I have also been doing the math and following the statistics, the casualty counts. This is not a genocide. More babies were born in Gaza since October 7th, 2023, than total reported fatalities.
Wow.
That does not happen in
no,
a genocide.
Exactly.
A population does not grow from 148,000 to over 2 million
Whoa.
over the course of 60 years in a genocide.
Right.
That does not happen. And
you know it when you see it. My former mother-in-law, I'm divorced from her son, but she was in one of the camps, and she lost her whole family, her sisters, her parents, everybody, and she managed to survive. And I tell you, the stories that she told me, how you can possibly think for a half a second it's fake. You can't make stuff up like that. You can't think of it, I don't think. I mean, it was just terrible. And no matter whether we're talking about it 5 years away or 100, it's the same It's right there inside of her.
And when you stop teaching the Holocaust in schools, the way that Vermont is the only state in New England without any Holocaust education standards, then you are letting kids be taught anything that could be completely anomalous to what truly happened. And in teaching the Holocaust, what we have to do is not just teach about the gas chambers. It's teach about what happened for the 10 years leading up to that. Because that's what we are living through
We let it happen.
right now.
Right.
And there's a reason why I refer to it as the rumbling in the deep, to take a line from Tolkien, but it's this shaking in the earth where it's like they're coming to kill us again. And we say this also every year at Passover. Every generation, they rise up to kill us again. Or they rise up against us. And the rumbling is because what we are seeing now is how the Holocaust started. It started with academic boycotts. It started with teaching children things through puzzles and books and games. It started with the arts community shutting out Jews. It started with the censorship of Jewish academics and Jewish thought. It started with the exclusion of Jews from certain fields of study and libels. And then it proceeded to the targeting of Jewish-owned businesses. And we're already seeing that around the world and here in America. We're seeing little Kristallnachts everywhere. And then it...
The what?
Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass, shattered windows. It was a massive pogrom that happened.
Every once in a while, you're slipping into words. I don't...
Yes, I got it.
Okay, I like it. It's very nice.
Yes, so it was a massive pogrom against the Jewish community and really seen as a tipping point. Many, many men were rounded up that day or that night, and that the allowance of that by the people and the neighbors who were not Jewish said, okay, well, now we can bring the rest of the Jews and put them into the ghetto. We'll keep them safer if they're all living with each other.
Right. Yep. Amazing.
We are in those stages right now. And if America wants to see what road we're going to head down, just look at London. We are so close to being London. London is us, but 20 years from now.
Really?
Really.
Well, that's if you've been listening to New York. The gentleman who's running in New York, who people are a little concerned, and he won hands down in the primary. That's a little scary.
I am so glad that thanks to Burlington, I understand ranked choice voting, and I am so thankful that...
I don't like it.
I don't either. It confuses everybody.
Yep.
But also the fact that this was a primary, but it is bone-chilling that somebody who said something so offensive that the United States Holocaust Museum issued a statement about it, is within striking distance of mayorship of the city that has the largest Jewish population in America. And America has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel.
I know. It's scary. I've been listening to what people that don't like him are saying, and it's pretty scary. And there he is.
Endorsed by our own senator, too.
Even if he doesn't get voted in, maybe, because he won a party nomination.
It sends a message, and it says, well, try again in a few years. Try again in a few years. Try again in a few years. It's more of that long game, but it is scary that people are so willing to dismiss the very valid concerns of the Jewish community and vote for this person. And in the same way that people will simply say, I'm not anti-Semitic. That's it. And they'll shut down the conversation instead of actually addressing
mean?
or listening to somebody talk about what's happening here in Vermont, where one school, students just stopped reporting how many swastikas they were seeing because they knew the administration wasn't going to do anything.
Right. Well, that, and I'm just so afraid that we're letting it happen.
We are
And,
letting it happen.
He's here. So is there anything, I just have a minute left, it went fast. Is there anything that you'd like to just speak directly to our viewers? And anything they can do to help, fundraising?
Yeah, there are two things.
Okay.
Number one, Shalom Alliance Vermont. Our website is shalomalliancevt.org. We are a nonpartisan space for people who stand with the Jewish people, stand with Israel, who are Jewish, who are not Jewish, and stand with us. And we are here to help, to listen, to provide materials. Please check out our website. We have a lot of resources, and any of the things that I was talking about on October 7th, we have an October 7th resource page. And if you don't believe what happened on October 7th, I urge you to look at that. And the second thing is that with everything that I've said about Israel being the one place I'm safe, there's a quote from Calvin Coolidge that I truly believe in, and I always will. If the spirit of liberty should vanish in other parts of the Union and support for our institutions should languish, it could all be replenished from the generous store held by the people of this brave little state of Vermont.
There you go.
I love this state, and I believe we can do better than this.
Great way to end the show. Thank you. Is that shalomalliance.org or?
shalomalliancevt.org.
Oh, I got to get that. vt.org. Thank you. Thank you, Rachel Feldman. You have been fabulous. I wish you all the luck and success and safety in the world. And you better keep in touch with us because
I promise.
I just want to know. Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in. This is Pat McDonald, your host for Vote for Vermont, where our tagline is listening beyond the sound bites. When you hear the word free, ask a question.